Hey guys, this is Dr. Sasha, and you guys are tuned in to Clinical Unfiltered. So give me your hearts, your minds, your teeth, and let's get unfiltered today with my Persian prosthodontic bros from just down the street here in Tampa. Pretty much grew up together, and they went the pros route because they're like a family of prosthodontists, and they took the mantle and really rose with it. And I'm the periodontist down the road, but we've known each other for a while. We're going to get unfiltered today specifically about photogrammetry, grammatry, something that it's dear to my heart because it's really like changed my career path because I love 3D printing. And I feel like it went really hand in hand with the world of 3D printing, which is photogrammetry and grammatry. And now, when was the first time you guys bumped into like either one of those concepts?
It depends on what you consider grammatry, right? Because technically any sort of scanning is grammatry.
You're talking about like you would consider, so like what's the technical term grammatry then?
I had digital impression making.
So an IO, like a regular scan body, is theoretically grammatry?
Yeah, it shows, yeah, technically.
Okay, gotcha. So then like why, but that term was never thrown around back then. Did that term just follow up because of photo? We were like, oh, photogrammetry / the photo. Now we call it just grammatry.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I've never heard that. I've never even heard someone say that was like a concept. So that's kind of mind blowing. So yeah, we've always had scan bodies for doing intraoral scans, and of course, from my understanding, this only applies to full arch implant dentistry, right? Like we don't do photogrammetry or grammatry at the implant fixture level.
Isn't it Peak that goes?
Oh, there is.
The scanner that goes implant level, you can get the implant information?
I'm pretty sure there is an implant level photogrammetry system.
Son of a bitch. No way. Who does it? Who's selling the fixture level photogrammetry?
Isn't it the PIC scanner or something like that?
PIC scan?
Oh, PIC actually has one.
That's what I thought, yeah.
PIC was actually the first time I bumped into photogrammetry. And I had it like, I want to say like we bumped into it like not 10 years ago, maybe like 6-7 years ago.
I think it became popular like 6-7 years ago.
Yeah. Like, that was right. I had gotten it, and then it felt like one of those moments when you get a car, and all of a sudden everyone you know has that car because you now have that car.
Yeah,
right. That's what I felt like when I got PIC. I was like, oh, everyone's getting
PIC now.
But the reason I jumped into it is, my personal passion for photogrammetry was I loved doing hybrids in residency, and back when I was doing it, it was still all analog. And remind you, I'm a periodontist. But even then, like, pros sometimes would help us out on converting them, but if they were busy, like we were kind of stuck converting the dentures. And when I got out, there weren't too many options when a referring dentist wanted to or thought about if a patient was a good candidate for a hybrid, and I would have to go back to the general dentist and be like, hey, this is how we're going to do the procedure. They would their heads would twirl, and I would have to take over on doing the conversions. And probably not as much of a sweat for you guys as prosthodontists, but for me, it was a huge sweat. My staff like didn't know what to do, and there's like powder everywhere. They're used to cleaning blood, not blood and powder from acrylic. So that whole process was a mess, and I was like, there has to be a better solution. And that's when I started to like go down the rabbit hole, bumped into like 3D printing hybrids and grammatry. Were you guys like into it in residency, or was this come afterwards?
This is definitely afterwards, and even, Nima can comment on it too. Like, for us, the photogrammetry comes on the fabrication post-surgical side, because we could plan all this how you want, but my surgeon will call me tomorrow and be like, hey, you got a denture ready? We patient's coming in. I don't have any scans or anything. It's like, okay, just send them over. I'll convert it. We still do it the old school way just because it gives us a little bit more freedom, and it's just faster, to be honest. But we use it more on the fabrication side, multiple PMAs. Our patients are, a little on the special side, and they're like, oh, the teeth are too far out, too far in. And it's made a world of, okay, no big deal. Let me just move the teeth in. It's not like to start a wax up over, make sure my models are verified, and so total waste of time. Yeah, you don't have to go any of this. So it's actually fun because I'm like, okay, no big deal. I'm just push a little couple buttons and it's over.
All those millions of steps for verification, wax teeth. It allows you to take full arch dentistry and make it digital. That was kind of the big concept, and create an accurate digital impression. So I'm just going to rehash for anyone listening if they're not familiar, which I think everyone for the most part is somewhat familiar with photogrammetry. But basically, you have these special scan bodies that apparently can go at fixture level, but designed to go on top of multi-unit abutments. And then with photogrammetry, you have an external camera. And right now on the market, I know there's like the iCam, the PIC, the Tulip like what's that one? It's like by Blue Sky Bio like bought into it. The Volp, you know what I'm talking about? It's like small. It actually looks like a DSLR.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. Yeah,
That one's the cheapest one I've seen on the market. But again, it's still like I think like $18,000. Like it's not cheap, but that's the cheap one. And I had the pick. Have you guys ever actually owned any of them? Here's the crappy part about them. They break, just like any other tech. But honestly, I feel like they break more frequently than like an intraoral scanner. And in these scenarios, when you're in a full arch scenario and you've taken out all the teeth and you're scanning, you need that accurate digital impression with the photogrammetry scanner. And again, just to clarify, an intraoral scan is not accurate enough on normal traditional scan bodies. There are unique scan bodies, which we'll get to in
specialized scan.
Right. We'll get to grammetry there in a second, or I guess what is grammetry now? I kind of flipped my like mindset on that. The thing with it is if you're in that moment and your photogrammetry $18,000, $20,000, $30,000 camera doesn't work, your butthole tightens real quick.
Oh yeah,
real quick.
It's over. Yeah.
I mean, and I had gone so deep into it that I had completely let go of all my temp cylinders. I wouldn't even have. Honestly, I got so confident with the 3D printing that I wouldn't even have a denture ready. So I would have nothing. And so like I needed that photogrammetry scan to go through
without your stuff.
Yeah. Or I would have like a lab design like a denture last minute and be like, all right, I'm 3D printing the denture in Onyx resin and then delivering and picking or just delivering a denture till I can get scan bodies or something like that. So the photogrammetry cameras, as cool as they were expensive. I mean, again, granted, it was back then. I don't know if there was too many other options to get a digital scan that was that accurate. You could 3D print. I felt like photogrammetry was the first gateway to us doing full arch dentistry fully digital.
I think it's exploded the abilities of designers and everybody else to get it to a certain point.
I mean, were people using regular like regular scan bodies to do this stuff?
I'm sure some people were, but not to an accurate level. They were still doing everything else on the model. So they would get their designs done digitally based off of where their temp cylinders were, get close, and then still have to finish on a model anyways. Because there was only one way to have a verified digital position or verified position of those implants.
You're saying like a denture would be made with like close to cylinder?
Close, and you just have to attach it, yeah.
Oh man, that's still tons of lab work.
It doesn't change anything. It just makes it a little bit easier. It's the same conversion.
Yeah, and then they would just use lab scanners because that would be like a verified position to scan everything. So it was never like a intraoral or an in-office situation unless you had a lab scanner.
Well, no, then you're back to the analog. That was like the whole purpose for me. Is like get away from analog entirely. And I've actually heard like pretty prominent speakers say that the intraoral scans with regular scan bodies is often accurate enough. And it's like I've seen them say this, and most of the time these have been doctors talking about after surgery, so they've healed for 3-4 months. Problem is, a lot of times we're making this intrasurgically where things are a mess, and those regular scan bodies sometimes are just, I mean, definitely wouldn't be, long enough. But the issue is the amount of stitching that happens in those intraoral scans warps the image, and you
got blood in the way, and you got a suture in the way. That's not going to work.
And when you're scanning in the middle of a surgery, you have to extra scan, and that causes more images, more stitching, and very inaccurate scans. And so the argument I remember they were giving is that using the regular scan bodies on these multi-unit abutments, when they healed, you could actually do. And I was like, maybe, but still, there's a better solution. I can't remember which one of you, if both of you presented when you guys were talking about like accuracies. of different scanning techniques for these full arch, comparing photogrammetry or
So yeah, I compared photogrammetry and iOS grammetry scanning to each
okay,
other.
so it was grammetry scanning still.
I'm pretty sure one of the studies I read was grammetry. It's been a while since I looked at that.
So it wasn't just straight up normal scan bodies that we used to
Yeah,
use.
it was. Well, there was a study that coincided how your intraoral scan accuracy is compared to traditional analog impressions. Nothing comparing uh, photogrammetry and just intraoral scans. But it was the intraoral scanning was talking about like how accurate the different types of cylinders were. So if it was like a regular cylindrical scan body, it usually scanned pretty well. The more awkward the shapes are, the more hexagonal stuff was in there, the less accurate it was at the end of the day. So their accuracy was coming into like the shape of the scan body.
Okay, gotcha. But like the vertical or horizontal shape?
I mean, the most accurate one was like just a regular cylinder, like the cylinder is like a little notch, like a flat portion. That was the most accurate scan body. How tall it was, how wide it was, I don't remember exactly, but it was just all about the shape of it, the basic shape of it.
Huh. That actually is going to bring an interesting point up
Like
here in
the
a
easier
second.
it was to scan, I think, and the less imaging it needed would make it a more accurate scan body.
Okay, gotcha. So like it's all about ease of scanning, less images. Again, less images, less stitching. So that's the key. That's the key with an intraoral scanner. But of course, photogrammetry was like you don't even need an intraoral scanner theoretically. Yeah, you're using a separate camera, not an intraoral scanner. And I think that a lot of people don't get that connection that photogrammetry is like not an intraoral scanner per se.
You still need the intraoral scan separately, but for what we're talking about is implant coordinates of each other, right? And that's the whole problem is we need to make sure that each STL file of each dome of the multi-unit is all matched, is accurate to the mouth. And yeah, I agree. I think everyone says just take a scan, it's close enough, and I think people have recently got away with it because of what the prosthesis allows for, but they're not really talking about complications of what could be done after the fact.
Oh no, no. And that's the thing is like I feel like the number one complication most of the time with these hybrids is not biological per se. It's more prosthetic. It's like and that prosthetic complication is coming from misfits and I think lack of like caring. They're like, oh, it's kind of fit, like the margin's a little bit open, but the rest of them are that one's closed, that one's open
Screws
barely.
a little tight,
Yeah, right. And they're cool with that. And they rock that. First screw starts to stress, loosens, rocks, breaks another screw, and then that overloads another implant. And now that implant, it's a trickle down effect, all coming from the fit. And again, photogrammetry solved that problem, but again, expensive and would break down. Hence came another concept, grammetry. And my first grammetry experience was OptiSplints. What was your first same OptiSplints? Yeah.
The first one that I was made aware of was the Nexus system from
Oh,
Keystone.
Nexus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
Nexus was the
first
first
one
one.
I learned about. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. But the first one I actually used was OptiSplint.
That's right. Same here. Same here. The Nexus guy came to my office, and I was like, oh, this is dope. I was like super excited about it. I was like, this is great. So I don't need my photogrammetry camera. I could just use it. So yeah, I'm like, all right, sign me up. He's like, okay, the only thing is you have to use this lab the whole time. Only one lab. And I stared him in the eyes and his soul, and I was like, this is not going to work. You're not going to win. You lost already. You tied my hands.
There was one more not OptiSplint, but wasn't it the Instarisa or whatever the lab where they use regular scan bodies, but they put like byte registration in between them so you get like better. There's one more it's the same concept of it is to see how accurate the intraoral scan can stitch everything together.
I remember hearing that name. That was around the same time like Nexus.
This is when everyone started doing this. But the beauty was that the scan bodies were cheap.
Unlike Nexus, which is like, well, they would be like, oh yeah, your first case with us.
Right. The scan bodies were cheap, but then you pay the lab, but the lab fee was premium.
It was expensive, yeah. But it is a nice product because you're getting a milled titanium bar, and I still think it's a.
Were they not giving you STL files to do the temps though?
I think in the beginning they weren't. It was only proprietary to them. But I think now they've opened it up to say, hey, if you want to print your own temporaries, that's fine, and then we'll
trying to chase their tail now. Yeah. I told those assholes, I was like, this is not going to work, man. I was like, you got to give power to the people. That's the way these things work, especially with 3D printing. I mean, that whole concept, I think, pushed. It's milling, too. I think that whole concept of doing it yourself, it pushed it. and in a good direction. The OptiSplints was my first run in with actually buying something and using it. And I liked it right away just for the fact that, again, I didn't have to, have a photogrammetry scanner, but then I had to loot it. And again, it was like, man, I had to buy composite for that only purpose. I was like, what were you guys looting? What were you guys looting it together with?
Initially, we were using flowable, but now at one point, Nima goes, "I'm just going to use build-up material. It's cheaper and it's set, so I don't have to light cure." And so now we use build-up material.
It was actually like a weekend that I went in to treat somebody, and I had to like do it fast because I was running out of time. And I grabbed the flowable, and it was just me, and I was like, I can't. This is taking too long. So I held it, grabbed the build-up, and just started layering it on there, and it helped really well.
Our set's like within a minute, so it's just really nice to just go all the way across.
Is it dual cure? I'm assuming like you can then.
Ours is actually just a self cure. It's not even light cure.
It just takes a minute.
Yeah.
It says it's dual cure.
No, I think it says self cure on it.
Does it?
Yeah, we just light cure just to make ours feel better. Yeah.
Makes you feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
Your little Harry Potter one.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the OptiSplints, if you're not familiar with those, they're these like cage looking tower structures that look like the like telephone wire
or like a honeycomb. They sometimes look like
honeycomb. Yeah. Honeycomb. And what you do is that the scan bodies, you loot together the honeycomb portion, and it's an elongated scan body, and that honeycomb portion gets looted together. But that's really not what you're trying to scan. You're trying to scan the butt end of the scan body. That's more the dome portion. Yeah. Is that what? That part of it, like, because that shape has got, because that's not like a complete rounded shape, though.
It's got a specific shape to it.
But it's an easy scanning shape.
It is a scanning shape, but the point of the OptiSplint is that you still have to scan that honeycomb and your buildup or whatever, because that's what's stitching everything together. That is part of the scanning technique that makes it accurate, which we can get into of where the inaccuracies obviously come in with that, but that's
okay. So if you use the OptiSplints and you do not scan the honeycomb portion,
I do. You technically don't need to, but you should, I think,
because you're playing with Exocad. You yourself are sitting there stitching things together. You've done it.
No, I still sent it to a designer. Yeah.
Oh, you still sent it to a designer?
Yeah, we designed it in Exocad ourselves. Our lab guy takes care of everything else.
Yeah, I mean, for what he charges, it's just not worth my time to do it.
No, I same here. Like and I've had people actually say who like maybe you're even well versed in it, but Exocad to do your own designs, even when you have all these digital files, I've heard it's cumbersome, and if you're not doing it frequently, you can easily lose touch with how to do it. Like Photoshop. If you don't use Photoshop frequently, it's not an easy software to just jump in and do it once a month.
Even Nima's pretty well versed on some of the designs, and I look at it and I go, it's not even worth my time. It's too late to like learn it. But
well, it's like for me, I learned how to design like weird stuff in Cerix InLab, which is atrocious when it comes to like outside of the box designing. Exocad has the ability to do all these like crazy things, so it's like when I started being able to do some of that, I was like, oh, all right, this is easy. I can do this all day long. But like you couldn't do like wax ups on Cerix software and Sorona software. It was like a nightmare just to get some veneer kind of design, so it looked like somewhat of a tube. It wasn't designed for that.
Is that because those softwares are like step 1, do this, step 2, do that?
The library of those softwares is just more limited, and it doesn't allow you to like it needs reference points to create whatever it's thinking of. Whereas Exocad gives you a library of teeth, and you just put it wherever.
But also, Exocad is just like way more powerful. There's stuff that I've tried to merge, like 2 models, where I'm like, these should merge seamlessly, and Cerix or Sorona, either the Cerix scanner or InLab, just won't do it. And Exocad just quickly merges everything together, and it's super accurate.
I send a file to our lab.
I think it's like licensing issues, or like.
I think the software is just weak. I think they're a little.
I think it's the algorithm of the software just knows how to put things together far better. It knows how to recognize different things more easily.
Which
I've had lab techs be like, I'm using this, so like getting the core files for like the pick was an issue with some labs, and getting like any lab using Exocad never had an issue getting us getting the core files, and that's what these labs need. Or if you're doing it yourself, you need those core files from pick, or pick all of them, So they need the file to reference, and the exocad guys who were the guys just had never really had those issues. And I felt like pick I had more issues than I did with OptiSplint. So like for some reason a lot of labs were having no issue jumping in and using OptiSplints, and a lot of labs were like struggling with us bringing in the pick. I don't know what it was. I don't know why, but it might have been just the fact that I switched labs around that time. And maybe one lab was using, I think the one lab was using 3Shapes software, and that one is very like step one, import, step two.
But I would say 3Shape is still
3Shape
is still pretty powerful. But I do think you're right. I think everyone's talking about this scanner is the best for this time. I think the whole reason we've even got to this point is because of exocad. I think it's how the software has allowed this to just be seamless and easy. There's no way we would have gotten to this point where other companies would have invested money into different scan bodies or whatever the case may be to get to this point.
By the way, not a plug for exocad, but it's nice.
To their respect, I feel like they gave power to the players. I feel like they left it a little bit more open for people to play. And when companies decide to say, hey, we're going to be like, no offense, Apple, and we're just going to close off, it causes issues in this wild, wild west world of implants, scan bodies, scanners, Everyone's got to play with each other, and that exocad does that.
I would literally compare Apple and Dentsply Sirona very similarly, because they love to close their systems and keep some of their systems, like their intraoral scanners and stuff. They like to keep it in house. They're just like, this is our software. You do what we say you do.
Which is not a bad thing, because it makes it really simple. Of you hit next and you go to the next step, and it's easy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For people who don't want to get into the nitty gritty, that can be nice. That streamline workflows, like step one, step two. I'm just not that kind of guy. Like I'm like a pirate. You guys are like that too. And honestly, most people who care about this episode and listen deep enough are like that though. And most we're the video game generation. Like we get that stuff.
I guess something we should say to clear the air is what we mean by it's open is that the companies who are making the scan bodies have created a library of what those scan bodies are. So when you get an OptiSplint there, or any scan body, you have just whatever shape it is, and it's in an STL file. And we're able to pinpoint that based on the library that another company has imported into exocad. And that's where the beauty of this comes from, is you're allowed to get that three-dimensional of where each implant position is in comparison, which the only other person could do was peek and the ICAM. That's it. There was no other ones. But because of that library, it allows us to do this.
Could you say peek again? You call it peek.
Pick.
I call it pick.
Pick.
You call it peek?
Peek, pick.
You said peek.
I said peek. I said peek. Yeah, whatever.
I was like, dude, he just turned Italian on us. It's peek.
Yeah.
Each of the grammatry scan bodies, like the companies, I don't know if they sell it or I don't know if they have a licensing thing. You can go on the website and just download. Like I was checking OptiSplints the other day. Like you'd go on digitalarches.com or whatever the website is, and you can download their library of scan body files. And it's like super easy. Now, what to do with it? Put it in your designing software, and it'll know how to manage it. But that's all you got to do. It's like super easy to get.
I feel like that's why, again, this the access to be able to do it. OptiSplint's made a lot of sense for a while. But I'll tell you, from a cost-effective standpoint, like going in and having to when you loot these together, were you guys just like, all right, we're done for this case, or would you take it apart? Like, would you take off
we take it apart, yeah,
and use it again?
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah.
How many uses would you get? How many uses would you guys?
How many
get?
uses do you think we
unfiltered?
Over 100
per scan body?
My dad does.
I'm fairly certain we still have the very first set. As long as I think, as long as it doesn't have like damage to the mating surface,
right?
It's gonna fit. And because we're making a physical model off of it, it doesn't really matter because everything is going to be put on that model.
I do think if you were going to, and we can talk about how Nima and I do our actual fabrication of this, if you were truly going to scan and have something fabricated, no master model, nothing, no tie base, you probably shouldn't use them too much because you want these to be super accurate. But for us, we're creating a model, we're cementing tie bases, and I have an analog model. So when I go to cement these, I have no worry if it's a little bit off. I adjust either the PMMA or I'll adjust the zirconia to make sure everything slides in and is a passive fit. But that's where Nima and I do it differently. So it's made the fabrication steps significantly easier and faster for us, but I'm okay giving a little bit of leeway because I know my model is verified. I know it's passive.
Okay, so I mean, you hinted at it, and I do actually want to dig into that. So you guys are actually, so when you're using the OptiSplint, you then use that to then make a master cast, like an actual 3D printed master cast?
No, so I'll put lab analogs, multi-unit analogs into it, and we'll just put it into just a square stone.
Okay, gotcha.
It's just like a solid cast of like a verified model of where the implant positions are.
Interesting. Are you still scanning the OptiSplints then, in that essence?
Yeah.
Okay, but on the cast or?
So Nima scans them in the mouth. I think it's annoying to do that. I don't have the patience for it. I'll just put them on the model and I'll scan it because at that point it's theoretically it's the same. I mean, if it's on the model, it's the same. Yeah.
The only reason I scan it in the mouth is because I can capture a little bit more of the tissue, which makes it merge a little bit more accurately. Supposedly.
I know I haven't been on that end, and I've like so when I do my OptiSplint scans, I was also then taking it off, putting healing caps on, and then scanning the soft tissue separately. But I would try to get tissue so that they could merge the tissue
you
from.
still have to capture the soft tissue. So,
right, but I was saying I would scan it in the mouth so that they could merge the picked up soft tissue that I got with the OptiSplints with the tissue scan. Yeah, and I feel like they were helpful for that.
Maybe,
just like, go screw yourself, guys.
Yeah, because in theory, they're gonna. I mean, and this comes back to exocad. Exocad allows you to layer 5 different scans on top of each other. So you have your soft tissue scan, you have your temporary scan, you have your 360 scan, and then you got all this on top. It's like it's close enough. I mean, can't be that off.
No, you're right. Theoretically, they shouldn't need that. Theoretically, you should be able to take the OptiSplint because it's all luted together. So when you take it out, it's still registering where the implants are in 3-dimensional space. So theoretically, yeah. And I've almost used it as a litmus test to tell who's a good designer and who's not. Because the ones who are like, man, I can't get this. Where's the tissue? I'm like, you can do this. Like I've played difficult levels on games with, video game. You just have to try a little bit harder. Lock in. You could do this.
A separate argument. I don't even think they look at it. I think they're just getting the actual implant positions from that. Just the same data that's given to you from the PIC and the iCam. That is the data that they're going after. It's not like, oh, you have the soft tissue scan on top of the OptiSplint. They don't care. They're extrapolating where that STL data is, where they want it, and then the rest is useless. Then they merge them with the soft tissue scan.
Well, so they're more sloppy about the soft tissue.
I don't think they care. To be honest, I really don't think they care
for the soft tissue. Yeah, I don't think it matters.
So I feel like when I've seen some designers, yes, but there's some designers that are like so married to the tissue. That's what I'm saying. I've tried like.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh my god, I've tried like 10 different designers at this.
I do think old school is a little bit more. I need some reference.
Yeah.
I need to know where I'm going.
The older guys are, and the more like tech heavy guys are Nika. They're just going like straight to the OptiSplints to register implant position. And like just dragging the tissue around it, kind of.
Yeah, and here's the thing, because maybe
just have a standard flatness from multi-unit abutment head to multi-unit abutment.
Yeah, but here's the thing, it's because the fabrication is so easy. Let it be fucking shitty. I don't care. I'll just take a wash of it and be like, match it to this. I'll take a 360 scan of the prosthesis and be like, fix it. Just redesign it. It takes 3 seconds.
Right and you can adjust.
Exactly. Yeah.
I actually have preferred when lab techs like really base it off the grammatry scan, like you're saying, and just give me like flatness going across and let me decide how much I need to adjust so I can establish that tissue contour after it heals. And I try to actually put slightly taller multi-unit abutments. Like I try to go two and up to give me that ability to create that like soft tissue barrier, as long as it's not an FP1 case, to try to create that kind of that zone of tissue that you can get when you get a nice flat, prosthetic on the intaglio side. Now I moved away from OptiSplints. Are you guys still on OptiSplints?
Oh yeah.
Have you guys tried the other stuff?
No, and the only reason for that is because it's not giving us an analog model. Because we're doing tie bases.
Remember, we're pros.
Well, okay, yeah. I didn't want to go away from that. So then you have the model. So then you are on the model, putting the tie bases on, and then 3D printing the temps.
The temps, like PMMA, yeah, because remember, we're doing a milled, printed, it doesn't matter. And then we're cementing them, and then if everything checks out with that file, sometimes I just send the same file to a milling center and say, mill it, give it back, and I'll do the same thing. I'll cement it on the tie base. And those have been probably my best fitting ones.
They look the best as well.
What tie bases do you guys? I mean, what?
Yes.
Manufacturer desk tie bases. Okay, gotcha.
Nothing fancy, just desk.
And so
The
do you
easiest to get
have?
the libraries for, like, it's super.
Gotcha. So you have the library for the desk tie bases, which you overlay, or whoever's designing it
Correct.
overlays it, and then they're so the model that they're printing or the file STL file you're getting back is designed to go on those tie bases.
Correct. And then go on to
Gotcha.
exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. How much? Because I know lots of us. I mean, for example, me, I go direct to multi-unit, but I know a lot of people go direct to multi-unit. How many people? Like, what do you think the split is on people doing tie-based versus multi-unit?
I think it's like
Going direct.
2%. It's me and Nima. Oh, sorry, 3%. Me and Nima, and then everybody else is going straight to multi. I don't think anybody.
Gotcha. Okay, so sell me on the tie-base.
So I guess.
Like,
I mean, this is gonna be a heated conversation altogether.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I want.
I think photogrammetry, grammetry, all of them, as they've proven that they're giving us relatively accurate implant information. Let's just call it that. Accurate enough. And I think ICAM is probably the most accurate, and I think we all agree on that. And grammetry struggles in some aspects of it. And you're asking somebody to make something that's accurate, that the manufacturing process doesn't follow that. You have zirconia that is 25% oversized, and it's going to shrink, and it's going to shrink volumetrically. You have no idea how it's going to shrink. You have 3D printing, which is pretty accurate. I would say 3D printing fits a lot better. I've printed a lot of them that go straight to multi, and they fit fucking phenomenally. But that's
you're right. But it's that transition. I've noticed that too.
But so Nima and I have talked about this. It's like, if our data is correct, then the only other way to go away from a tie base is a milled titanium bar, which then would go back to Nexus. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'd like, and this is part of it. Yeah. But I mean,
cost goes up. There's something wrong with
the
that.
cost of the tie bases and everything is, I've done the math. It's not that far off. If your designer can do it, I don't want to use.
No, I mean, desk tie bases. You're right. Or not. That's not a heavy input, especially if they're. Like everything else is the same.
It does.
Just the added cost. Yeah.
It does add to it, because let's say it's like $200-300 per each one, and now you did a PMMA, and you did a final, and you did 2 or 3 other PMMAs. So like it can add up. Yeah. So the cost of it can add up. So like, I mean, our lab charges what, $500-600 to just mill the bar. It's really not that much of a cost difference. So I've never used the cost breakdown and be like, I'm going to be cheap and do the tie bases. It's just, it allows for more inaccuracies to be fixed when you go to cement it. And I'll be honest, there's not every single case you're going to get that desk tie base made up perfectly with the zirconia. It's just not. It's impossible to get that. It's never going to happen. But then you can adjust the zirconia on the intaglio of it so that everything's a passive fit.
Damn, actually, I thought I was going to fight you back on this a little bit more, but I'm. You know what? I had this conversation with your dad, who's also a prosthodontist, and he was like, I would rather have that variability in the cement range rather than the screwed range. And I was like, okay, fair.
I can't tell you how many cases I've seen where it's like the zirconia either chips, the screw breaks, and these are all like the old school Rosen where straight, and like that's always a problem with mine. It's like, oh shoot, the tie base debonded. Okay, didn't damage the implant, didn't damage the multi, nothing stripped. Like it's just the screw got loose, tie base came off. Okay, big deal, repair. Now I say big deal to repair was because that I could do that in 5 seconds in the chair. It's not a big deal, but maybe for other people,
for me it would be a big.
It's a big deal. Yeah, exactly. No, and I get that, and there's a reason why labs have pushed to it, because it's like, you'll never get a debonded tie base. Your life is great. And it's like, okay, it's great until it's not great, and you've like snapped a screw in there, and you're chasing after that.
I mean, realistically, so if it happened in my hands, I'm thinking like, okay, let's say I understood the process of doing tie bases and eluting these together, and if debonds. Because right now, I will tell you though, I'm within our group, we're using MIS multi-unit abutments, which they take a 1.6 millimeter rose, so it's girthier. The prosthetic screw, the bridge screw. I haven't had any of those break. The 1.4s I have, and I mean I could be completely superstitious because I've got no other data besides our group, but our group does a lot of arches. The 1.6s are less likely to have issues. Now, where we have had issues is temps occasionally breaking. But on the finals, and I try to screen our offices. I'll check in every now and then on like Fort Lauderdale's implant office and see how their panos are looking. And I'll occasionally spot a zirconia where I'm like, like you could tell the temps. You're right. Zirconia milling is so variable, and processing is so variable that even if you have everything accurate, in the end, yeah, you could be like, why is this not fitting? You know, everything else fit, and then and I'm like trying to explain to everyone is like it's not the lab's fault per se.
My biggest issue with it is how it fits on the multi-unit itself. Because of that variability, there's always a gap somewhere. It doesn't matter how perfect it looks on the X-ray, there's always a gap. Plaque always gets underneath there, and that's something the patient can't clean. Whereas on head bases, it's like a sealed surface.
And I give that credit to my dad. I mean, you know him. He's been doing this shit for this shit exactly is like 20 years, literally full arch dentistry for 20 years. And he's got like old school shitty hybrids from Glidewell that look awful, and you pull them off, and there's calculus everywhere other than the fucking tie base. And it's like, how is that possible? Patient never brushes, and there's nothing. And then you got this patient with perfect oral hygiene. You take off a zirconia one, the zirconia chips, and then you look, and there's plaque fucking everywhere. And it's disgusting. And it's just part of it. It's never going to be perfectly sealed because it's not machined to it.
This is, I mean, so this concept. What if, see, now, if the multi-unit is deeper into the tissue, and you do have kind of like that cylindrical shape of the zirconia going in, or the type, then I feel like a tie base, yes, 100%. But when you have them like really flat, like, you know, talking about the multi-units are higher up, maybe even slightly supra, just slightly.
Yeah, you probably won't chip there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When I have that, I feel like I've got more trust in the process. But when it's that tube shape going underneath the gum tissue, I fear for those. Those I fear. I feel like that was where the tolerance of going direct to multi-unit has way bigger risks.
I'm going to fight you back on that. It's like if you trust it when it's thicker, then that means that it is inaccurate. Because you're saying that there's that much of a discrepancy on how it fits that if it's that far off, it's zirconia, it's a millimeter there. It should theoretically be strong. And if it's thin and it chips, that means it's not accurate.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like that. I mean, I'm not agree. I'm completely agreeing that like it's warped. It's not 100% accurate. But if I was to pick one of those two scenarios, I would be cool with dealing with the tolerance of it being off in that thicker scenario rather than those tube shapes. And like when you're trying to think, and this is the thing, when like our group, one of the things we try to give is the whole concept is like access to care. That's like the mission. So we've tried to like minimize costs as much as we possibly can to give access to more patients. And, but of course, you know, try to hold a certain standard, but there is some tolerances that you can play with. And I think if you do like one size fits all, like this is the one way to do it for the whole everyone, no, right. But if you're going to give way here and there, I think that's a place that I feel like I could give and not have too many issues with prosthetic issues.
There's a reason why this has become popular. And at the same time, okay, let's say your multi-unit is above the soft tissue and a little bit of plaque gets under there. So it's not below the gum. This patient's not going to die from it. Yeah. It's just a little bit of plaque. These things should be coming off every year or 2 years anyway. So in the grand scheme of things, we're being jerks about it because we're prosthodontists. But in reality, people do it all day, every single day. And it's fine.
I think you're bringing up a good point because I think also how many people are thinking like that? Like, okay, well, because of this, we'll move the multi-unit up, create a thicker base, you know, like not have as much of a... Not everyone's doing it. Everyone's just doing it the same way every time. And when a tube goes deep, they're just still doing it the same way every time. Whereas reality checks in, you should probably think uniquely as many times for each case. And to a certain extent. I mean, have a rhyme and a rhythm to it. But in the end, if you're doing any of this stuff, it always starts with the photogrammetry. Oh, it was going to bring me up. I was going to talk about my latest scanning component. But this is, again, because you're doing the tie base, this wouldn't work. But I started using True Abutments IO Connect scan bodies. And I didn't want to loop together. I wanted to be able to have it repeat. Now, granted, with that said, I think I had used my OptiSplints a total of like 30-something times before I then made this. I was using the same ones until I couldn't anymore.
You could see they get damaged. And once they do, then you can toss them. But until then, why not?
So within the group that we had, what we noticed is it's mostly staff removing the composites and everything, and so they would get damaged. And due time, and they're running it through sterilization would warp things. So it ended up being something that we would have to change out. And the cost of changing it out, we looked at it, we're like, okay, what if we had a solution that's more, that we don't have to throw out every time? or every 10 times. Because if you're doing enough, there's a number that suddenly makes sense. And not looting it together, paying for the material. These offices were mainly implant offices, so a lot of them didn't have core build-up material. The composite they had were to fill access holes. So so we went with the true abutments, and the whole concept there is that they've got triangles, or not triangles, like a diamond at the long end of their scan body, and you just have to scan that. And by just scanning that, you are using way less images to stitch that together. And they have a proprietary software like True Abutments that you're supposed to use that'll merge it, but I don't know if they've released their kind of core file, so you don't need that. But I know they have one, like a proprietary software, and the labs that I'm using uses their proprietary software.
But there's a lot of labs that use they have their files.
I'm wondering if the proprietary software is like super cheap and like it's like one of those, you buy the product, you get the software for free kind of things, and they just gave it to labs for free, so that it can stitch it together easier. And we've had
I'm a huge fan of True Abutment stuff. I think they're on top of the game. So.
Yeah, we love them for all of our singles,
and I've seen their full art stuff, and we've talked about it, in the past too. And I really do like their stuff.
So I mean, I'm curious, like, if they had the ability, because if you're even doing it your way, maybe again you need that, you wouldn't work.
I've had so many labs be like, okay, well, we can cement the tie base for you. We'll print the model. I'm like, then it's inaccurate, because now your fabrication of printing the model is inaccurate. And like, this is where the technicalities come in, which is why we're so like anal about how certain things are done, because everyone's like, well, I'll give you the tie base. I'm like, yeah, but you're missing the point of why we're doing the tie base, is to get a passive fit.
No, this is interesting. Every argument to hold on to OptiSplits, and we have doctors who still hold on to it for the sake of having the verification of it. It's like a verified jig for them.
It's peace of mind.
Dude, I don't know how to tell you this. Every single time I put on the model, I go, all right, I know. Like, there's no question of like, it came back from the lab, is it going to fit, is it not going to fit? And my dad uses a third-party lab to do it, and even then, he puts them on the model before the patient comes. Like, it checks. Nima and I do our own lab work, and I put it on. I'm like, okay, yeah, I cemented it correctly. Like, it works. It's fine.
And I think that's actually like, because we have both. So we don't just have the true abutments. We have both of them in the office. And one of the things is like the IO Connect scan bodies, even though they got different shapes, they're very fixed in their shapes. Like, you can't modify them. The honeycombs you can play with. So I've got OptiSplits with like funky honeycomb designs that I've done myself.
So we've notched them in half. Implants are too close, and that's actually, it's a good point that you bring that up, because some of the, I guess, in my eyes, some of the scan bodies, you can't move them in that close. Like the True Abutment, I don't know if you can modify them. Maybe you could, but the OptiSplits really,
to a certain extent.
Yeah, I'm sure
to a certain extent.
Because sometimes, implants end up close sometimes. It's just what happens.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, like FP1 cases and things like that. Yeah. So we have both. So it's like, in the end, we've kind of got OptiSplits now as our main solution. I honestly think if you're new to this, OptiSplits are a good introductory grammatry based scan body for people to get into.
I don't think it's bad. I think, and Nima and I talked about this, because he had one case like a couple of weeks ago, because he modified the head of the.
I did that.
Well, whatever. He used the scan body that was modified, and the prosthesis came back, and it barely fit on the analogs, and it's like, okay, well, there's an issue with the scan data, and in theory, if you're following the step, there shouldn't be. Right, we're assuming it's accurate, and that's again where we like our workflows, because we can catch it on the earlier side of it.
That actually makes a lot. Like, I could see, because there's scenarios where I have gotten a temp back and been like, it's rare, but a temp will not fit properly, and then in that moment, you don't have many options. But if you did have the verified jig, like the luted together OptiSplant,
grind open the acrylic and cement the tie base on, you're good to go.
Right. You would have this like backup option. And I there's a few cases that because I had that luted together OptiSplit in my back pocket, that I was able to save a case, or at least save a visit for a patient.
And I think, and that's like what we're trying to do is, I mean, these patients are going from like, teeth are not good, obviously, or they've had dentures, life is not good. They want screwed in permanent teeth. And my whole goal, my dad's goal, and Nima's goal is, I want this shit to be done in like 2 appointments, 3 appointments. I'm not trying to spend like, I mean, sure, there's those cases where someone's like, well, I don't like the teeth, I don't like color, and that's fine. Like, we'll deal with that. But like in the core position of, hey, you went with no teeth, and now you're walking with like solid teeth that if it breaks, it breaks. Whatever, we'll make you another one. Like that's just a really easy way of like stress-free living, especially when they're spending all this money with those too.
That and they are people who do not love coming.
They don't.
to
Yeah,
the
you know
dentist.
that. They don't.
So you
They
save
don't
them
get to that
visits.
point
That's
if they
big.
love going to the dentist.
That's very.
There's a reason why they ended up in this place.
The other reason
so-
I really love this whole optimization process, that at least the way that Nika and I have been doing it, is we get the files for the PMMA, we get the files for the final. Should something go wrong, I literally send the file right back to my milling center and I say, make me a note. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to try to fix it if push comes to shove. I just have them mill a new one and we're good to go. I just have to take the little tie bases, we cement it back on, but again, I have the model. It takes 2 minutes.
Because we give them the models when we finish the case. We say, take it and put it in a cabinet and don't lose it.
Now let me ask you this: do you know of a way for them to make the model? I mean, because let's say you have all the digital scans. Is there a digital way of creating that model that doesn't have analog, like it's 3D printed analogs, or like a way to loot?
They can, yes. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of labs can do that so that you can cement the tie bases. Is they'll create a printed model where it has the domes of the vault in it and you can cement it on.
But is there inaccuracies in that?
It's like every layer of inaccuracy makes it kind of worse. It's like back to dental school. It's like, well, make sure your final impression for your denture is good. If not, every step of the way, it's going to get worse and worse. I mean, it's the same thing.
Check this out. This thought process. They make a jig. I guess that could be inaccurate. But they give you a file, an STL file for a jig, which then you can then loot together. Like if let's say you're using IO Connects, the true abutments, they give you a jig instead of like the actual teeth, or their proprietary software gives you a jig, which then you 3D print and loot together, hence getting something you can then work backwards from.
Backward verification technique.
Yeah, you're making it. Yeah, backwards.
Yeah, the most accurate model-less workflow, and Nima and I have talked about doing this, is just a bar. And I don't think the cost is that much more. The designs are the same. As again, we're assuming that the scan data is accurate. It's the same.
It's something actually. The whole bar concept, we're going to start rolling it out soon in our group, just because so many people are snowbirds. We're in Florida, and what we're noticing is a lot of them are like they're traveling and getting it done, leaving, and then coming back 4 months later. And most of them don't tell you if it breaks or gets loose, despite like pushing it on them to let you know that. Having that bar in there and having a temp alluded to that bar is comforting.
Peace of mind. It lets you sleep at night.
Yeah. If they break the temp, the bar's still intact, eluding everything, keeping everything tied together.
Dentists can at least do something for you if somebody else were to see them.
Right. They might see a bar, or you could even. I mean, I think at this point there's someone in every state
who can do it,
or that can handle this
at
work.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah. You call a doctor in that state, and you're like, do you know anyone tech heavy? I've done this. They will find someone like us 3 doctors right now you're listening to. There exist in other cities that can help each other out. But with digital files, it's all doable, and that's why you need grammatry. Screw photogrammetry. I'm sorry, I'm done with photogrammetry. OptiSplits, IO Connect, True Abutments, IO Connect scan bodies. Those are where I'm at right now.
But you say you're done with photogrammetry, but I know you're a big True Abutment fan. It's there.
I did buy it. Who am I kidding? I actually did. I do have it. I have their we just haven't gotten the iPad for it, so we have it in the office.
So it's approved. It's ready to go now.
Yeah.
Oh,
we have the kit. We have the kit. Yeah.
There's also another photogrammetry system.
It doesn't require a separate camera. This is using an iPad.
Yeah.
So
it's a separate camera.
Yeah.
Technically, it's cheaper, but separate camera.
Yeah, but you can do other things with it, like.
Shining 3D. They
Pokemon Go, whatever.
Yeah, Shining
3D also has their system where it's the scanner, their flags, and their photogrammetry where you just scan it and that's it.
Yeah, and their scan bodies remind me of Nexus scan bodies a little bit. Yeah, but their camera, their intraoral, their intraoral scanner has the ability to do some form of photogrammetry within the head. Because it's got 2-point camera system or something like that. We actually bought 4 of them across our offices. So some of the offices that we have the Shining scanners and are using them, but they're still using the IO Connect scan bodies.
Nice.
Just because it's easy on the assistants to just do that.
But I've heard good things about the Shining 3D. It's like scan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, their scan bodies are great, and that system is working really well. And again, if you don't have an intraoral scanner and you're like planning to get in on a lot of this kind of workflow,
Not a bad one. Yeah.
that's a good intraoral scanner to do as well.
Yeah.
So let's modify this list. Opti splints, and all you need is your intraoral scanner with them. IO-Connect scan bodies from True Abutments. Again, all you need is your intraoral scanner. Shining, and they have their own kind of photogrammetry scan bodies. So again, it's an intraoral scanner that comes with the ability to do kind of photogrammetry with it. And then True Abutments did come out with a photogrammetry that doesn't require anything besides an iPad. So way cheaper than an iCam camera or a Peak camera. So those would be the options, I would say, if you're looking into this stuff. Those are what I look into. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. Do you guys want people to reach out to you and talk to you about this stuff, or you're like, don't bother me? How would they reach out to you? If they had any questions?
Just send me an email. I don't care. Yeah, shoot me an email. Yeah.
Send me an email. If you want my Instagram, it's Iranman. Pretty straightforward.
All right.
Email is it's iranman393@gmail.
My email is niranmanesh.dmd@gmail.com.
There you go, guys. If you have questions, I mean, these guys, I'll tell you, we shoot ideas back and forth, and they know their stuff. They play around. That's the key. You just got to play with this stuff. Thank you guys for getting Unfiltered. Don't forget to comment, comment, do all the digital freaking things you got to do to help the algorithm, and have your grandma do it, whatever. Thank you guys so much. Till next time.